This is Rags.
And this is Kirk.
And you're listening to the Current Podcast. Check us out at CVRNT.com.
We're also on Twitter at CVRNT. We have Instagram and Facebook at CVRNT Podcast. And we even have a Patreon at CVRNT.
So what are we going to talk about today?
In today's episode, we're going to continue the AR discussions with the recent Apple iPhone X announcements from the Apple keynote. And also Google launches their AR SDK kit called ARCore. Let's start with the news from Google. Out of nowhere, they dropped that they were releasing ARCore, which is their software development kit. And they announced that it would run on the Pixel and Samsung S8 phones that are running 7.0 Nougat and above. And they were touting that they could immediately target over 100 million devices with this new preview. And a little bit more nerdy, ARCore, it works with Java, OpenGL, so there's some libraries that you can build some applications using Android Developer Studio, as well as there's some, plugins for Unity and Unreal. And, just like Apple's AR kit, it's kind of like similar SDK that will allow you to enable a lot of AR features on Android.
I mean, it's the same as ARKit, essentially, right? It's Google's answer to ARKit, if anything.
Yeah, which I guess the thing here is that I think they were trying to drop this news to kind of, get in front of some of the Apple announcements. It was probably just, I assume they had the timing down on purpose.
Yeah. So wait, did you look into whether ARCore was accessible immediately to developers or?
Yeah, so I've actually loaded it on my phone last night. So basically you can download this APK. It's kind of like a zip file of the libraries, and you can load that on your phone. And then there's actually an app that's out on the Google Play Store right now that's called Atom Visualizer. So it's a augmented reality app where you can kind of point at certain objects, and then it can show you the molecules that might be in that object, and you can kind of like walk around it and zoom in with your phone. But the only way to get it working is if you like sideload this APK, which is the ARCore library. And it's not that intuitive. If you've never loaded any of these APK files on your phone, it might not be that straightforward, but I've done it a few times. And yeah, it was pretty quick.
Forgive my Android ignorance. Is it possible to just create an app or as part of an app install that APK onto a device? Or does it have to be done specifically by the phone's user directly on the device? Let's say Atom Visualizer, right? If you downloaded Atom Visualizer as part of that, would Atom Visualizer be able to install that missing APK?
I guess that's one piece that gets a little deeper than my knowledge of how Android works. But when I downloaded the app, I did not have the APK, so I did not have the library basically to run the augmented reality features. So funny enough, the app just failed to launch completely. So this is one of the differences between like the Apple Store, I think, and like the testing that happens on the Android Play Store. Like, I don't think Apple would ever let an app launch in the App Store if it couldn't run out of the box and actually launch.
Like the equivalent would be right now for someone to release an ARKit app on the App Store.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't be able to
which is weird. It's like somehow this company was able to launch theirs on Google Play Store, but like I said, without having the knowledge on how to load the APK for ARCore onto your phone, it wouldn't run. So it immediately just popped up a message saying libraries are not loaded, cannot run, which I think is because of the way they built it. There's like no menu before you jump. You just jump immediately into the augmented reality experience. So the app can't load at all, where like if there was some menu, in theory, you could have instructed me to go load it. I actually already forgot how I even did it. I think I just literally download a zip file. They have this executable on your computer. So you plug in your phone to your computer through USB connection, and then you literally are just like run this command line. So it's like basically load this zip file, and then your phone just like loads the file. It's pretty quick. But I guess stepping back, like ARCore, there's obviously it's not ready for consumers to just load on their phone. But from the developer standpoint, there's tons of people already out there jumping and doing a bunch of different experiments. So I think we've been looking at a few sites of things people have been building.
Yeah, I mean, so what else other than that atomizer game is out there? And then what do you see as some of the bigger upside and some of the features that are touted within ARCore? And how do you see this playing out?
Well, I think the phones right now are pretty powerful, right, for Android since they're targeting the Pixel and the S8. So you have some beefy phones out there. I guess their SDK kind of has 3 selling points right now. It has motion tracking. They call it environmental understanding and light estimation. So I think basically its motion tracking is where the phone is when you're kind of like moving around a spot that has an augmented reality experience. And then environmental understanding, of course, is like, is there a table? Where does the table's edge exist? And so you can interact with
basically knowing surfaces and like this is a wall versus a floor, things like that.
Yeah, and then light estimation. So a lot of their demos, which I thought looked a little more realistic than Apple's demos with ARKit, was their light estimation. So in that area, like casting shadows, like if there's like some sort of character in a scene.
Oh, I see.
Now, I'm basing this completely on the demos I saw of ARKit a month ago to ARCore that came out, a couple months later, but not the conversation we'll probably have later about the Apple demos that were being shown. But yeah, I think they're going to be kind of similar in the beginning. The biggest probably news for a lot of people that have been following Android augmented reality abilities is, Google did have this phone called Tango, or hardware that was called Google Tango. And that was a phone with specialized hardware in the phone to do a lot more augmented reality advanced features. And it looks like Google, has either, I guess I don't know what the plan is that Google's going to do. Are they going to like merge these two projects together?
Tango is pretty much done. They don't have any more plans for it. And from what I've read, it seems like it was either going to be ARCore. Like Tango went in and did this, tried to like put this idea together in this concept. ARCore was like a bunch of people, like it basically got a little bit more funding and a lot more people just kind of hopped on it and just kind of built this thing up really quickly. And they just built this platform type thing, and Tango, obviously with hardware, investing hardware and like making all this other stuff didn't make sense. So they took what they could out of Tango and then pushed it to ARCore.
I would add that I think maybe Google always envisioned a lot of these roadmaps kind of coming together, because they have a lot of efforts, right, in virtual reality, obviously, and then, like you said, the Tango hardware and some software pieces, and then ARCore, which is another software solution. And I just wonder if they imagine the roadmaps merging together so fast, but with competition from like Apple and Microsoft, I think that kind of forced their hand a little bit. And I do think the future is probably a combination of hardware and software with like kind of the mix of Tango and ARCore. But with the ARCore software solution, it allows them to get in the market a little faster.
So you think that the future is still going to be us having a separate device or phone? I guess in a way that's true.
It's not a separate device. I think it's more like what Apple announced, basically, with the 10, right? Like that phone has the hardware in there.
Yeah. No, I see what you're saying. So it has to be a little bit more specialized. So it's not going to be like your old school Android phone is going to be able to do some AR, whatever software-based AR it's going to be able to do, it'll be fine, except your new AR phone, like let's say your Pixel 2, 10, iPhone 10, whatever, like they're going to have specific hardware that makes the augmented reality probably a lot more high def, a lot less laggy, a lot more responsive. And so in a way, it kind of is like the difference between like initially when smartphones and stuff started coming up and like the more expensive smartphones that had really good cameras, and then you had like you still had like this time range where people still had flip phones and stuff, and you're taking pictures with your flip phone and you're like, I don't know about those images. Like, I don't know how good they're going to be in a few years. But I mean, like something like that's been solved, right? Like, so now Google has, since Google Photos has, they're working on rolling out the machine learning piece that basically takes blurry photos and then makes them kind of higher def, estimating what things are supposed to be. So who knows? Maybe in the future, these older phones and there'll be ways to consolidate and do stuff with it.
Yeah. So you did mention like what other examples or what cool stuff I think was being shown with ARCore. So we have some links that we'll add in the show notes. Like there's experiments.withgoogle.com/AR, and then there's maybe a easier to remember URL. This is ARCore.com. But if you scan through some of the examples, it made me think immediately to the AR kit examples that have been flying around the internet that not necessarily Apple released, but just ones that developers are practicing and experimenting with using the Apple solution. So some of those demos that I'm referring to is like one that kind of circulated that was kind of popular was this guy was like walking into an 80s music video. So he kind of like walks through this like portal, and it was like black and white, and there's music playing, and then he's like looking back, and his kids, you could see them like through the video and the filtering. Well, I was gonna say there's a demo in ARCore that on one of these sites that's very similar. It's like, oh, we walk through this like old-timey photo scene. So they basically, it's like a filter of like a cutout, and they walk through where it's like that Sophia, I think that's how you pronounce it, where it's like the old tint look of a photo. And then like when they walk through this portal and they look back, there's like everybody that they're looking back into has that same filtering. And I was like, oh, cool. That's like the exact same demo that we already saw with ARKit.
It could have just been that the people who put the same demo out for ARKit switched it to ARCore.
Yeah.
It's possible.
But, there's definitely some neat stuff, like people like kind of pushing the hardware to see, how many objects can end up in a scene and using like reflections and really... I would note there is one difference, though, that I've seen between a lot of the Android versus Apple demos. A lot of the Apple demos that you'll see online are a recording of what's happening through the phone. So you don't really see, I think I brought this up before, you never really see the user walking around, maybe like bumping into things or tripping on something, or, you don't see their experience. It's mostly what was shown through the video, through the phone itself. But a lot of the Android demos I've seen, I've noticed a lot of people are filming someone who's looking at the screen. So you do get to see a little bit more of the, what the user is actually having to do to have this experience. I'm still not 100% sold on like every solution I've seen come out, but, I think this is the point. Let's experiment with the technology, and, the real products will probably come out even months from now. You'll have a bunch of crazy stuff, the fart apps again. In the beginning, but once we learn more how to use the technology, we'll hopefully see more of the real applications for this.
I mean, we'll have to kind of watch, but again, we've been talking about this for a little while. We've drifted into the AR space for 3
or 4 episodes.
Yeah, last few episodes, because it's just been it seems like it's kind of coming in, in this like VR versus AR race. We're trying to just talk about everything as a whole, but right now with this kind of lull with VR, and now with just augmented reality being this flashy new thing, you'd have to say that AR is kind of gaining a lot of steam, and a lot of people would probably have, if you were to choose between working on one versus the other, or put time and learn, you're probably more willing to go towards the augmented reality space than virtual reality.
I want to add, because like that's probably a good explanation of why we've been jumping on a lot of the AR news. But oddly enough, again, talking about roadmaps colliding, Google, they have Tilt Brush and they have Blocks, which are like artist tools for creating content in virtual reality. And there are demos of people creating these, objects with the Blocks application and pulling them already into the ARCore experiences. So yeah, maybe that's what we've talked about in the past. Is like, you do work in VR, but then you like use AR to have that, work come to an experience.
Well, I mean, but that's the point though, right? At that point, why am I going to sit there in VR and build any of Blocks or anything else?
Yeah, exactly.
Why do I need to go into a VR mode of anything? I could just build this on my desktop and then pull it into AR, into my AR space or my dev thing. And then now it's in the real world around me. I don't need a headset. I don't need all this other stuff. I don't need like a ton of other technology. I just could use my phone.
I mean, I guess the thing is, you don't have the ability to use your hands right now, right? With like the phone. I mean, maybe. I guess like that's going to be more demos we'll need to see, is like, how do you like chisel away at an object to form some other object, like through the AR application. But you're right, you could just see it in front of you on the phone. But I guess I was just pointing out, is like Google is definitely coming out with like a pipeline, and that's only available pretty much through their solutions. And I don't know if you can easily do that stuff yet with Apple. I know they announced stuff at their developer conference, but Google kind of already has the tool set.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about some of the Apple announcements from their keynote a couple of days ago. So I had a chance to watch the keynote. First off, obviously it wasn't even news at the time of the keynote since it was leaked earlier, but it didn't have as much flair.
Yeah, I didn't dig into all of the leaks that were happening, but I feel like if you cared enough about all the Apple leaks, you could have learned everything that was announced, almost 100% of the whole conference.
So one of the things I noticed was they kind of seemed to have the wind knocked out of them a little bit. People were in the audience kind of responded to some of the stuff, but not really as much. It honestly, it just didn't seem to be like the same as a usual Apple event. The big thing anyway is that they did announce the couple new iPhones, right? The 8 and the 10. And I believe the 10 is what is going to have the extra hardware for AR. Did you get a chance to watch the whole event or recording of it? Or
no, I didn't. So unfortunately, I was only able to kind of scan the blogs and the photos that I was seeing online. So I guess I didn't see like the emotion in like the real time, and I didn't really go back and watch much of it. I watched a few of the demos of the AR experiences, but I guess like the question for me is like, do I want the next iPhone? I think that's what I'm trying to figure out, is because I loved the iPhone before I switched to Android, and it took some time to grow it on me, but I like the Android software right now.
Okay, talk to me about anything that you saw or heard of with iPhone 10, assuming you're not, if you say you want the new iPhone, you're going to consider the 10, not the 8S or
Correct.
8 Plus or something.
I actually don't even understand why those exist. I mean, I get it's the lower price point.
I don't think anybody does. It's like the 7 Plus was like the 6 Plus some stuff that leads up to the 8, and the 8 is the same for the 7 Plus to the 10. But once you announce, like if you'd announced the 8 and the 7 together, I would not have gotten the 7 Plus. I'd have gotten the 8 Plus. The same way. But the difference is now the jump from 8 Plus to 10, it's still a few $100 price jump, and the difference between 64 gig and the 256 gig is $150, right? The 64 gig model starts at $999. It's going to be a little bit more, a couple $100 for tax and AppleCare, and you're looking at about $1,200 for that, right? And $1,200 for lower end is $1,200 thereabouts, assuming you get AppleCare, which you should get AppleCare. Probably, and
I wonder.
No, I mean it's just not why it's such an expensive device that you'd want. If you can get like insurance for that for $100, just do it. Like it is something that you're carrying around with you every day. It's different than a laptop, right? Your laptop stays at home. For a device like that, you want to get, if not AppleCare, then SquareTrade, whatever. So I'm just assuming AppleCare because of the ease of whatever. So it's like $1,200 for that. $1,350 for the higher end model.
Well, okay, and then neither of us are saying that no one's going to be lining up for these things. Like they're going to sell out. We know there's people that are not as price sensitive, but like for me, it's like I don't own what are they called? The AirPods. So those are $150. So like you're easily at $1,500 now. Plus they showcase some wireless charging pad that isn't available yet, but
the accessories, it's another $150. $200, more than that. So now you're pushing like $1,600, the price of a round trip ticket to India
or London, maybe. It's good to throw out some comparisons. Like, I guess going back to the original question, like, would I get it? The hardware is what's cool because, like, to me, it's like does stuff similar to the HoloLens. It's got that extra Tango hardware, but in a phone I want, where like the Tango hardware was not ever in a phone I wanted. But the price point you're throwing out there is like almost 2 pixels right now, or at least the original Pixel prices.
Yeah. I mean, think about how much you spent for your VR setup. And
that's a good point.
Like, so you're paying that much for a phone.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it does a lot more, but like I'm going to use it, like you said, day in, day out, 100,000 times a day. But the AR pieces, the extra stuff that it comes with that's different from other phones, that's not going to happen all day long. I'm not going to use those features.
Then again, right, like you have to, if you look at things holistically, you're talking about, we're not the best use case for this. We already own like VR systems. We already own some, like you have a Google Home, like I have, Apple TV, like other Apple products. And, we have like a bunch of devices already. And for us, it seems like, oh man, just like buying this other thing, this other device now doesn't make sense. You'd have to think back, put yourself in a position where it's you spending money on a VR system. Okay, so you're thinking about buying either a Vive or Oculus, whatever. You're like price is dipping, and so you start looking, and then you start looking for a computer with the new, because you were like new computer with the configuration I need, or I don't have a Windows machine, I'm going to buy that. And then this news comes out that there's augmented reality, and there's in this iPhone 10, it's really great, blah blah blah. And then let's say you have an older phone and you've been thinking of upgrading that too, because you were kind of like thinking Oculus, and if you wanted Oculus, you were thinking of getting a Galaxy or something. So let's say you're in this kind of situation, right? And it's not really, you wouldn't say that, sure, the person trying to get a VR headset, there are not a whole ton of people trying to do that, but point is, someone in that situation potentially would just be like, I'm not going to upgrade my computer, I'm not going to upgrade I'm not going to buy a new VR system, I'm not going to do anything, I'll just buy this thing. Because this thing has all of that, and it's going to be more entertainment, presumably, because I want to be able to play all these games and do all this stuff with this. And I think they're making this. So they're trying to replace that whole package. Instead of all that stuff, you don't need space, you don't need anything. You're in a small apartment or something. All you have is, you have this phone in your hand, and like it's going to do all this magical stuff.
I don't know. I mean, I'd imagine Apple had run tons of models to try and determine like what that price point would be, and maybe, like you said, you and I are just on that cusp of where it starts becoming a sensitive price for us. So we're borderline. We could swing maybe either way, but there's definitely a large percentage that they're like, okay, this is not going to be an issue, and then there's a bunch of people that are just not going to be able to afford it. This version. I would say though that, like, oddly enough, like I didn't think I cared much about like the Apple Watch itself, but when they did those demos at the beginning part of the conference, it was like Apple Watch connected to the AirPods, and then I kind of knew obviously they're going to release a bunch of AR stuff, and I was just like, oh man, you can see the future is probably not even a phone, right? It's like I was saying, it's a watch, headphones, and glasses. Like,
see, some of the heavy lifting, at least for now, is being done by the phone. So then in the future, you could have a wired or wireless way of linking these like glasses and then you have sound through your AirPods that are wireless. If they could get the glasses to wirelessly stream data back to and from your phone, and the phone be like an attachment or the device that's doing the basically the brains of the operation, and the display is just on your glasses, then, which is what I think that's generally the prediction that's out there right now, I believe.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of people that talk about augmented reality is not just, visual, right? And I've heard a lot of conversations of people talking about the AirPods themselves, augmenting their surroundings. And there's other devices out there that are similar. Think of what your watch can do, what your headphones can do, and then when the glasses come.
So the main thing, as far as like augmented reality, was they talked about a few apps where there were like these robots, that were on this basketball court kind of thing, and there was like a T-Rex, like an augmented version of it that's hopping on the screen right in front of you. And then they said that Major League Baseball is going to, I think, starting this season or next season, they're going to start. You're going to be able to use the app, and then if you're at the game, you can just point the phone at the players, and then it'll tell you which player. It'll give you like these player cards on top of them. It'll be an overlay on top of them in the real world, and you'll be able to click on them and see stats and stuff. And then there was this demo by Directive Games.
Yeah, I think that's a good overview of some of the third-party demos. We didn't actually cover the kind of like, it seemed like the core AR experiences that Apple was embedding more into the like OS, maybe, if you will. So like one was unlocking your phone with your face, right?
But do we really care about covering this stuff?
Well, okay, so the unlock your face, sure. Okay, people get that. But for me, the other two were kind of important, I thought. The portrait lighting. So basically, they updated some software in their camera to do augmented lighting on people to kind of simulate studio lighting rather than just like, typically when you take a photo, you can increase the flash or you can increase the saturation and the lighting. But basically, because you can map the face, you can then take a photo or edit a photo that you manipulate the actual lighting as if you kind of set up studio lights. And I guess like I got like kind of like, blown away because I was, I do a lot of photography on the side, and that was kind of crazy. I mean, it makes a lot of sense, but I guess I just didn't connect that, right? If you basically know where all the light rays are going to fall on the face, you can manipulate that in software, right?
So why do you think the studio lighting thing is such a big, like, why is that relevant to augmented reality?
Well, I was saying that I thought it's only capable because of augmented reality and the hardware and the software. Like, I guess to me, I look at it as like, yeah, we focus right now on like looking through the screen at the real world and stuff, but because of the tools, it unlocks some other stuff that you can do where it's not a perception that I'm in this augmented reality experience. And I guess like I kind of saw the portrait lighting feature plus the emoji piece that we didn't talk about. Like those are experiences that, it's just going to be seamless. Like nobody's going to be thinking like, oh, this is AR. Like they're just going to think like, oh, this is something a new thing I do on my phone that's kind of cool. But those things are not enabled unless the technology was there.
Yeah, so I mean, ultimately, once you can split out the real world into layers and overlay stuff and do things and manipulate that, then to your point, things like studio lighting now become possible because you have stuff that needs to know where everything is, that needs to have environmental understanding, that needs to figure these things out. And so this is almost like another extra tool that we can use to really change the way the world as a whole is viewed. And I think it will be a completely new kind of entry point or a new marketplace as a whole.
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm getting at, is like kind of like the internet, right? Like, yeah, it's just sending messages back and forth and sharing files, but then you get somebody else who comes in with a completely different view and does a twist on it and then creates something new, right? And I guess like that's what I was starting to see was like the steps in somebody like not saying like, oh, the experience is mostly just seeing the world and something in that world. It's like, okay, kind of reverse that, let's leverage the hardware and the software, and yeah, we unlock all these other opportunities. And I don't know what they are, but I think like that's what got me excited.
It's a lot of cool new things there that with ARCore and ARKit, and Kirk and I have been discussing ways or ideas for things that we could maybe do to try and learn this a little bit more. Kirk's got iPhone or the Pixel. Kirk's got a Pixel loaded with all the stuff he needs for ARCore, and I've got an iPhone and should get the iOS 11 update soon, and then maybe I can try to see what I can build for that with ARKit, and we'll keep you guys posted if anyone's got any ideas or would like to collaborate and try and build something and learn. Ping us and let's try and build something.
Yeah, I think we were talking our next steps are probably to just start getting our hands dirty and try and build something. I was going to add, if anyone has any demos that they've already built out there that they wanted to share with us, it'd be cool. Send them our way. We'd love to check them out.
All right. So with that, I guess we'll call it end of this episode.
All right. Sounds good.
This is Rags.
And this is Kirk.
Thanks for listening. Catch you guys later.